No Katniss, no Peeta, no Hamish or Cinna. It sounds like I'm about to do some weird rap. No Katniss, no Peeta, no Hamish or Cinna. All right. Okay, I'll stop. Even without those, we do have Snow. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, takes us back decades before Katniss ruled the arena and focuses on the moral complexities of the games. So, does this prequel live up to the hype? In the post-war capital, Coriolanus Snow is the last hope for his failing lineage. With his livelihood threatened, Snow is reluctantly assigned to mentor Lucy Gray Baird, a tribute from District 12 in the Hunger Games. But after Lucy Gray's charm captivates the audience of Panem, Snow sees an opportunity to shift their fates. So, if you're familiar with the Hunger Games films, President Snow, he's a bit of a cruel and bad dude. In this prequel, the story's set about 60-ish years in the past, so we get to watch a young Snow as he's attending university and then encountering experiences that will help shape who he eventually becomes. Now, Tom Blyth plays Snow, and this guy he nails the turmoil and complexity that's needed to create a conflicted character that we're meant to identify with and really even empathize with, all while then wrestling with what we know he's going to turn into. Blythe is charismatic and dynamic, and because he's just about in every scene, we get the story from his perspective, and that in itself is just captivating. I love the background we get on the character. We see his home life and his familial relationships, both of which shape his worldview, but also work to influence his motivations and decisions. Now, probably the greatest portion of his performance is how we watch him wage an internal moral war with himself over what he needs to do to survive or thrive and what his heart tells him to do. Now, this portrayal, it was so good that there were multiple times throughout that I was hoping he was going to do the admirable thing and then choose a different path, even though I know who he becomes and that my wishing was just ridiculous. Now, I was sucked into the character, along for the rolling emotions that ran the gamut and then worked to create a really layered performance. Then we've got Rachel Zegler in the role of District 12 darling Lucy Gray Baird. Now, the film uses Zegler's wonderful singing voice to shape the character, using her songs as endearing elements that woo the Capitol and ultimately seek to accomplish the game maker's goal of reinvigorating the Hunger Games. Now, Zegler has a down-to-earth persona, mixed with a bit of down-home simpleness, but she's not ignorant or stupid. She's very relatable because she's caring and warm, but not without strength and feistiness. Now, she can hold her own, but she's not a warrior, at least at the outset. Now, her dynamic with Blythe, I thought was also engaging and believable. The looks that they hold in their eyes while staring at each other, it just holds so much emotion and depth for their feelings, even when they can't or maybe won't vocalize them. The story allows them to create a believable bond, one that's helped along at times out of greed or selfishness, but then also out of honest concern. And aside from these two main characters, the story focuses on a few other key players that help to add conflict and tension. Now, first, there's Viola Davis as the game maker. She's got a very unsettling look to her with just one bright blue eye that feels like it's peering directly into your soul. And she's also got some wild makeup, making her sort of clownish, but way more scary and menacing than Pennywise. She's got some dialogue that she delivers in such a no-nonsense and dry manner that it simultaneously made me laugh and gave me chills. She's excellent in this unhinged, but never over-the-top role. She's just the right level of malevolent and evil with a cruelness that's just frightening. There's also Peter Dinklage as one of the professors at the Capitol University. Now, he's brooding and melancholy with a very sour demeanor, but he's also complex and mysterious with a massive chip on his shoulder and an undefined malice for Snow. Dinklage, he's great at delivering a very broken and damaged character. Now, Jason Schwartzman takes on the role of Hunger Games host, kind of like Stanley Tucci. He's quirky, silly, very similar to Tucci's character, while also bringing his own flair. Now, he's witty and snarky, and that often added comic relief to his scenes. Now, finally, there's Josh Andres Rivera, and he plays Snow's friend and adversary at university. He brings an extra layer of conflict for Snow, creating more than one moral dilemma. And this then creates a palpable tension, not only between the two, but for the entire story trajectory. The aesthetics are wonderfully made for this movie. We're decades in the past from where the Hunger Games series is situated, and I love the restraint that the costumers and the set designers used when crafting the visuals and settings. There's not much technology at play, and when there is, it's rudimentary, especially when compared to the future games and how those are carried out. And then when there is some technology at play here, the film creatively uses it to create surprises and then a few laughs. But also, just looking at the Capitol, we don't get a lot of the vibrant and flashy hairstyles or costumes. Everything is more subdued, sad and downtrodden, just using deeper colors instead of brights. And the feeling I instantly got when we're first shown a portion of the Capitol is a Cold War era USSR or World War II Germany, with a few towering statues and monoliths that just scream submission and force rather than equality. And some may discount this movie altogether as just YA drivel, but it's actually a grounded and mature story. The themes this tackles have relevance for today. I mean, not just for young people either. Dedication, career advancement, emotional or financial stability, these are all very real ideas that are examined. And it's not like they just stop down and have heavy discourse over each topic, but the ideas are there and they allow the story to be relatable to a wide audience. Now, for fans of the previous films, there are very subtle nods to the series. I mean, nothing jumps out and screams, "Ooh, looky, looky, I'm an Easter egg." It's just visuals or small bits of dialogue that fans are instantly going to recognize. Now, for as much as I enjoyed the story and the character arcs, the runtime, it did become an issue. This is about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and while that in itself didn't make me wince or even feel the time, some visuals appeared on screen which worked to remind me that even more was left in the narrative. Now, the story is presented in 3 parts, with each having a title card saying which part it is and the subheading. Now, these aren't needed. When the third one came on, I was instantly reminded that we still had more story to tell, right after a very moving climax. Now, I would have been dissatisfied if the film had ended before part 3, but I just didn't need the reminder of how much time was still to go. And then within that final portion, the story feels a little rushed. The first 2/3, they took a long time to establish the world and get us invested in the characters, which I totally appreciate. But then to have the final act almost speed us along to get to the end, it was a noticeable shift in pace. Now, some character decisions within the last third could be up for interpretation and discussion about what went down and why a character behaved as they did. I think a few arguments could be valid, but if you're looking for an ironclad, completely answered finale, this doesn't give us that. There's still a satisfying conclusion, and I love how it points then to the future that we know from the other movies, which also I think closes the chapter nicely and wouldn't require any further story for Snow. So overall, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is a beautiful and exciting entry in the Hunger Games universe that uses moral dilemmas and character conflict to deliver a captivating and layered story. Tom Blyth and Rachel Zegler are phenomenal, each crafting personas that elicit sympathy and ire, layering complexities with tremendous charisma to their nuanced performances. And not to be outdone, the supporting cast deliver menace, animosity, and treachery, along with compassion and justice. The story, while familiar for the world it lives in, is fresh and new, expanding Panem into something even more tangible than before. While the length becomes noticeable and the pacing is rushed through the final act, the storytelling is immersive and magnificent, creating an overall narrative that is just as good, if not better, than its predecessors. There's no sex or nudity, barely any profanity, and a lot of violence. I give The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, 4.5 out of 5 couches. So are you a fan of the series? What character is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.